we'll get right to it. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on the Life Coach Zach podcast today. To all you people that are listening and watching on YouTube, my guest today is Devin Burke. Devin helps high achievers and exhausted insomniacs all over the world to get and stay asleep. He is a TEDx speaker, founder of Sleep Science Academy, and named one of the top 25 health coaches in America. Devin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about sleep with you.
Absolutely. Sleep is, it's very ironic we're having this conversation because lately I've been trying to be a lot more aware of my sleep cycles, get to bed earlier, minimize light in my bedroom. Believe it or not, a quick anecdote, I've actually been sleeping in my living room lately, just switching it up. And I wear an eye mask, but we'll talk about some of my sleeping experiences later on the podcast, but tell us more about sleep, how you got into being the guru of sleep and all things like that.
Yeah, I'll give you the quick version of a long story. Essentially, I am a great sleeper. I never had an issue with sleep. It was actually out of someone else's pain that I looked into how to solve for sleep. And when I looked into it, I found that there wasn't a lot of good solutions. Sleeping pills, maybe cognitive behavioral therapy, if you could find a good therapist. And so, kind of a backstory here, I studied a lot of different, over the last decade, mind-body, let's call them technologies, performance psychology, nutrition, exercise physiology, a lot of different ologies and philosophies. And I was working with high performers at the time, and this particular person was having issues with his sleep. And then that's what kind of got me interested in looking into seeing if I might be able to help this person. And then what I found, like I said, not even, a lot of good solutions, but actually the solutions that I found were actually harmful for people. And so I said, well, let me look into more science around it. Let me study it a little bit. Let me see if, let me learn more about this. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. And the more I realized how important it is. And so then I was able to then help this one person by tailoring what I learned through the lens of all the things that I had learned up until that point. I said, well, if I can help this person, I can help thousands, millions of people. And so we're not helping millions of people yet, but we're helping hundreds and thousands using the approach that we have, which is pretty awesome.
Amazing. So, sleep is something that's extremely important. I read somewhere that if you don't get a full night of sleep, your ability to accomplish things, your blood alcohol level comparison, I don't know exactly how to word this, but if you don't get good sleep, you're basically, your blood alcohol level is 0.1 comparatively. And I'm sure you've heard that.
Cognitively. Yeah. You let your mental acuity goes down, your decision-making process goes down, your emotional regulation is, off. You misinterpret emotion. You're more emotional. You feel, foggy. It's essentially, it is like you're under the influence of alcohol when you are deprived of sleep.
Right. And most of us aren't even aware of this because we're so used to not getting good sleep. I mean, we're scrolling through our phones in bed at like 11:30 at night, waking up at 6, 7 in the morning to go to work. Sometimes we get that full 8 hours. Sometimes we don't. And it's not really the quantity of sleep. It's more the quality of sleep. How long are we spending in deep sleep, right? Try to get 25% of our sleep time in deep sleep. I use this Whoop tracker, which tracks my sleep pretty well. I saw in one of your pictures, you wear the Oura Ring. Do you still wear the Oura Ring?
Yeah, that's what we use at our academy.
Cool.
We just found that's the least invasive and most accurate when it comes to sleep tracking. I think the Whoop's a great device for overall tracking. And, I'm not sure so much about the metrics on sleep, but I know that's a good device, a good wearable device. But we use the Oura just because it's, geared more towards sleep.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about how the listeners today can get better sleep. What are some of the quick, and I know you can go into super detail, but just outline to them the most important things when it comes to getting a good night of sleep?
Yeah, well, really, when we support people that have sleep challenges, we look at 3 areas. We look at the mind, we look at the body, and then we look at the environment. Most people, focus on the environment first. We actually focus on that last, because what I found is that most issues with sleep, it's really a reflection of your day and a reflection of the amount of stress, that you're experiencing in your day, both mental and physical. So that's where really it's important for people to understand that if you're not sleeping, sleep's not the problem. It's actually just a sign that something is out of balance in your life that needs to be looked at. Maybe it's, you're stressed about your finances. Maybe you have a relationship challenge going on. Maybe, you don't like what you're doing for work. There's so many different factors that can kind of create mental, emotional stress. Maybe you're exposed to toxic chemicals, and your body is under stress. Usually it's a combination of a lot of things. So when we look at, well, how do you improve your sleep? First, you got to look at, well, what has to change in your psychology so that you can better handle the stresses that life throws at you. And that looks like slowing down. That looks like creating more self-awareness. That looks like creating space throughout your day versus going from one thing to the next thing. That looks like, mitigating technology, allowing yourself to, take breaks from these devices, from email, from checking the social media, and, from watching the news, and just the bombardment of sort of, the world we live in with all the inputs that we have. You got to really start to control the inputs to mitigate some of the stress. I'm a big believer in mindfulness practices. Anything that's going to create self-awareness, whether it's journaling, meditating, breathing, anything that's going to create more awareness around what's going on in your mind is where you really want to start. And that'll make a huge difference. At the end of the day, when you're trying to wind down, you won't have so far to go to get the body into a place of rest.
Sure.
So that's where I would say, for people, just start with understanding your stress triggers, how you currently handle stress, and then find some tools and some strategies and some new habits to mitigate some of that stress.
Wow. So that's the mind. It's a lot of just chronic mental stress, anxiety, and depression. We're thinking about the future too much. We're salty about the past too much. And when we're more present, living in the moment, it's easier for us to kind of prevent future stress, allowing our mind to kind of quiet down and get ready to recover and go to sleep. Now, how much does our circadian rhythm, our internal clock, play into the mind aspect of your approach when it comes to helping people get better sleep?
Yeah, so that's really the second phase, is looking at the the physical aspect of sleep. So there's circadian clock, and then there's also what's called sleep pressure. And so there's a neurochemical that builds up in our mind bodies called adenosine. And most people are using caffeine at the wrong times, too much caffeine, which blocks adenosine, so it doesn't allow that sleepiness to build up. And then to your question, how much does circadian clock or circadian rhythm kind of come into how well you sleep or don't sleep? It really has to do with a lot of factors. Everyone does have their unique chronobiology. So some people are morning people, some people are more evening type people, some people are in between. I find that if you can honor that as far as from a sleep schedule standpoint, it does make an impact, but it really doesn't make as big of an impact as if you we're really focusing on some of the mind things that get in the way of the body doing what it knows how to do, which is sleep. Like our heart knows how to beat, our lungs know how to breathe, our body knows how to sleep. It's just we get in the way, and oftentimes mentally get in the way of our body doing what it knows how to do. So it's definitely an important factor, but I think people overemphasize, you got to get, blue light and you got to get sun first thing in the morning and honor, the sleep schedule. All those things for sure will help sleep quality. But if you have insomnia or if you're having a real issue with your sleep, those things won't solve it. They'll just help solve for quality of sleep, not so much the actual insomnia itself.
Right. So let me ask you this. How important is going to sleep at the same time every day and waking up at the same time every day?
It's very important. Mostly, if you can wake up at the same time every day, that would be the best if you have to pick one. But what that's gonna do, our bodies do love rhythm, they love routine, and it keeps that clock synced. Light and temperature and timing are the things that really keep a healthy circadian clock. And so, going to bed and having habits and rituals that allow you to wind down and go to bed at a certain time, as well as having allowing your body enough space to generate the energy it needs during the day, and waking up at that same time, having that be synced is critical. It really is. It's a foundation that a lot of people don't honor, and it does make a huge difference over time, for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned like getting your body ready to go to sleep, like a nighttime routine, shutting the lights down, turning the phone off, maybe lighting some essential oils, doing your skincare routine, brushing your teeth, kind of getting your body ready to go to sleep. Our body responds to what we do, our habits. And, it's just like driving to work every single day. You don't really got to think about it. You know where to turn, you know when to pull in, you know what time to leave, yada, yada, you know your route. You don't really have to think about it. But our body's kind of the same way, right? If we're doing the same
100%.
nighttime routine and, we're turning the lights off, we're playing a little Mozart, we're doing a quick 5-minute meditation, we're reading a couple pages in our favorite novel, like our body is going to really respond to that and get ready to go to sleep. So let me ask you this question. How does someone know if they're not getting good sleep? For example, let's say I sleep through the night. Okay. But I don't really know if I'm getting good sleep or not. What are some telltale signs that someone is not getting good sleep?
Zach, that's a great question. I love this question because it's really important for people to understand. The first thing is if you wake up and you're not refreshed. So you might be getting 8 hours, 7 hours of sleep, but if you're waking up and you don't feel physically and mentally recharged, you're probably not getting into the deeper stages of delta sleep and REM sleep, that body restorative sleep and the mind restorative sleep. And so the only way really to understand and know is to track and measure, because we can't manage what we don't measure. We can't master what we don't, have data around. Right. So having like a Whoop or an Aura or something that can sort of start to give you feedback on that beyond just your subjective experience is very helpful. But essentially, if you wake up and you're in a fog, if you're groggy, if you don't feel good, that's usually a sign that you're not getting quality of sleep or enough sleep.
Yeah, and that's a great answer. But unfortunately, it's easier said than done. Most people aren't aware when they feel like shit. Like if you're always drinking soda and you're not exercising enough and this is how you feel, you think that this is how you feel. People don't realize that they can feel better. And so that awareness is like, it's hard to start and it's even harder to be consistent about. But if you continue to cultivate that awareness of checking in with yourself, being mindfully aware of your energy levels and your mental clarity and how you feel when you wake up, then you could start to implement a lot of these strategies. So how do you think people could be more aware of how they feel in the morning? Do you recommend journaling or anything like that?
Yeah, so definitely measuring it again. So you're not. It's hard. It's kind of like if you don't go and get a blood test, you don't know if you have high cholesterol. If you don't go get a hormone test, you don't know if your hormones are off. So rather, don't guess, test. And how you can test is use a wearable device. And that can kind of help you. It helps motivate you. Like when you do some of the things that are going to be positive for your sleep, you can start to see some metrics around that. And so it to your point, it is true. Like people's low energy conditions become normal and they think it's normal to feel this way. And this is how it's challenging for a lot of people, because most people think sleep's a waste of time. They don't prioritize it. They don't protect it. Most people are walking around probably at maybe 60% of their physical capacity, and they think that they're at like 100%. So you have to care. And really, it's all about experimentation, because something doesn't become real until it's real in your experience. So you can try on really focusing over a period of 8 weeks, improving your sleep, getting more sleep, doing things that would optimize your sleep, and then just notice how you will notice a difference in your energy and your focus and your mental clarity. And we hear this from clients. We work with clients all over the country. And I hear this very often from people. They're like, man, I didn't realize how low energy I had and how emotionally I was sort of just not myself until I started to get better sleep.
Yeah.
And that became my new experience, because they were experiencing what they were experiencing for so long before that it just kind of became normal.
Sure. Let me answer this question. How impactful is it, positively or negatively, when you eat right before you go to sleep? And is there a certain amount of time that you should finish your last meal prior to going to bed?
Yeah, this is one of the big things that gets in the way of delta deep sleep. We get most of that in the first quarter of the night. And this is when our bodies are repairing, our immune systems are activated, the cancerous cells, the damaged cells are being, cleared out. the glimpse system, the lymph system for the brain, washes out beta amyloid plaque that builds up and creates Alzheimer's. All of that's happening mostly in deep sleep and mostly in the first quarter of the night. And when you're eating or going to bed on a full stomach, your body is diverting energy to digestion when it really wants to be diverting energy to cellular cleanup. And you can track, if you track this, and I know I've been tracking my sleep since 2018. I know the nights where I have a big meal too close to bedtime, meaning like there's not a 3 to 4 hour buffer between my food and my sleep, it absolutely impacts the quality of my deep sleep. Yeah. It's hard for a lot of people. A lot of people think that they have to go to sleep on a full stomach or they can't sleep. You really are, to those people, you've trained your body to feel like it needs to eat before it goes to sleep. Right. But I'm a big believer, and the science shows this to be true, that you want to sleep in a fasted state. You do not want to go to bed on a full stomach.
No, I can absolutely agree with that. You're so right. Let me ask you this. What about when it comes to alcohol? Like how bad is alcohol and how negatively does this impact our sleep?
Yeah, well, alcohol, it definitely negatively impacts your sleep. It might help you fall asleep faster, but what it does is it dysregulates your body temperature. So you're going to wake up dehydrated because it's also a diuretic. And we already lose a liter of water through the night just through respiration and sweat. And it also is, alcohol has been shown to, again, mitigate those deeper stages of sleep, just like THC from marijuana. So you're not going to you might feel like you're sleeping, but you're not getting into those deeper stages of sleep. So you're going to wake up, be dehydrated. You're not getting into those deeper stages of sleep because it essentially heats your body up. And so, if you're going to have alcohol, have it earlier on in the day, like, right, with your dinner. Don't have it later into the night. And again, this is all like, I love tequila and red wine. It's all in moderation. You have to balance self-comfort and self-care. So it's not about like being perfect, but if you're using alcohol, most people use it as a stress management tool. It's, it becomes tricky, or some people use it as a sedative, as like a sleeping aid. And that's a real problem.
Yeah. And when you mentioned sleeping aid, and I know you mentioned THC and marijuana as well, this is my next question. Does THC, because I know a lot of people use marijuana to fall asleep. It has that effects on us. So how negatively does marijuana impact our sleep cycles? And if it does, is there a certain time of the day that we should or should not be smoking weed or using THC, however you ingest it?
Yeah. So, I think there's still a lot of, studies and science that are kind of need to come around, to really prove some of this. But from what I've seen, it's not, it might help you fall asleep, but it's not helping the quality of your sleep. And so depending on the type, the strain, depending on your unique biochemistry, depending on the quality, depending on how you're consuming it, depending on when you're consuming it, these are all factors that need to be considered. So it would be irresponsible for me just to, to make some comments here about that. But from the initial sort of evidence, and there are some studies on this, it shows that it does affect the quality of sleep. It doesn't allow you to get into these deeper stages of sleep. And now there's actually some interesting research showing that, using marijuana, it also can affect your memory and long-term, brain performance. So again, in moderation, using it in moderation, if you're using it every night and you're relying on it to put you to sleep, that potentially could be a problem. But if you're using it once in a while to relax, to have fun, to get creative, and to hang out, it's a totally different story then.
Right. Good answer. I like that answer a lot. So mind, body, and environment. Let's talk a little about environment. What are some ways that someone can hack their environment to get better sleep?
Yeah, it's real simple. Cold, dark, and quiet. Think about a cave. Make your bedroom a cave. Make sure you have a supportive mattress, one that doesn't store heat. Make sure it's clean. It's free of clutter. Make sure that the air quality in there is good. It's not too humid. A bunch of dust bunnies floating around. Make sure that your sheets are temperature regulating, like bamboo sheets versus like cotton sheets. Again, blackout shades. You can wear an eye mask. If you live in a city, you can use a noise machine. You can use essential oils like lavender or bergamot or some of these other ones to sort of calm. You essentially create a sanctuary. Your bedroom is a sacred space. Make it that way. And the bed's the most important piece of furniture you own. So invest in the best mattress that you can afford. And because think about it, you're on it for a third of your life. So make sure that you get one that's comfortable, that's spine supportive, that doesn't, heat you up. And that's where I would start as far as optimizing the space. Maybe put a plan in there for some air filtration or an ozone machine. But it just depends on how far you want to take it and how much money you want to spend on it.
Right. Sleep is very important. We really got to invest in the mattress, but cold, dark, and quiet. It was cold, dark, and quiet were the three?
Yep, cold, dark, and quiet. Our body temperature needs to drop 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to induce sleep. The optimal sleep temperature is between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty cold. So, for people that live in warm environments, and I live in South Florida, there are certain things that you can do, like buying the Chili Pad or the Sleep 8 pod mattress or the Bed Jet, or there's things you can sort of do to help drop your body temperature, like taking a hot shower right before you go to sleep. So there's all these little fun tricks and things you can experiment with when we're talking about sleep quality. But temperature really is an important piece of quality of sleep. And I know, and the science shows, that when you sleep in a colder environment, it does help your body get into deeper stages of sleep. Yeah,
amazing. Devin, thank you so much. To all the people that are listening on Spotify or Apple, go ahead to devonburke.com, DEVIN Burke. You could check out his book, The Sleep Advantage. He has a Sleep Science Academy or one-on-one executive sleep health and life coaching. To all the people that are watching on YouTube, thank you so much for sticking around to the very end. I'm going to drop all the links to Devin's website, his book, and his Sleep Science Academy below. Connect with him on Instagram as well. Devin, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with, or something that I missed in the conclusion?
No, this was a fun conversation. I mean, I could literally talk for hours about this, and there's so many different ways that we can go with it. I would just, to those of you that are listening and interested in this, just take one thing that you heard that was interesting and apply it, because really at the end of the day, nothing changes unless you take action on the information. So I hope people feel inspired to at least take one or two things that we talked about, Zach, and just execute on it. And let me know if you do, how it affects your sleep. I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. Devin, have a wonderful day, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thanks, Zach.